The night was silent, too silent. The jungle around the human soldier looked alive, but no sound came from the trees. No insect, no animal, no whisper of wind, only a heavy silence that pressed against his ears. He held his rifle close, his boots sinking into the soft ground as he moved forward carefully. The moon above was pale and strange, casting long shadows that looked like monsters waiting to jump. His heart beat louder than his footsteps. Something was wrong tonight, very wrong. He was supposed to be on patrol duty near the alien forest line. It was routine work. Walk the border, scan for movement, report back. But tonight his instincts told him that something was different. Every soldier trusted instinct, and his instinct now screamed danger. He paused near a cluster of glowing plants, their blue light making his skin look ghostly. That was when he heard it. A sound that froze. His blood. At first he thought it was the wind, a soft echo, almost like a whisper. But then he realized it was a voice, not human, not machine, something else. It was a cry, a sob, filled with sadness that pierced the night. The sound rose and fell, like a heart breaking again and again. The soldier's mouth went dry. Who could it be out here, in the middle of enemy land, crying like that? He tightened his grip on his weapon. Every step he took forward felt heavy. He told himself to turn back, to report to command, to follow orders. But curiosity pushed him forward. Stronger than fear, his mind said danger, but his heart said find out. The sound became clearer. It was not a trick of the mind. It was real, and it was close. He crept past a large rock covered in alien moss. And then he froze. His eyes widened. His breath caught in his throat. There, under the pale moonlight, sat a figure unlike anything he had ever seen. Tall, elegant, terrifying yet broken. Her long arms wrapped around herself, her head lowered. Her silver crown of bone-like horns reflected the moonlight. Tears glistened on her dark skin, falling silently into the dirt. It was her, the alien queen, the ruler of the enemy, the nightmare of humanity, the one whose armies had burned cities, whose ships had blocked out the skies, the one who carried the title of destroyer. And yet here she was, sitting alone in the night, crying like a lost soul. The soldier's legs shook. His mind refused to believe what his eyes saw. He hid quickly, behind the rock again, his chest rising and falling fast. He whispered to himself, "This cannot be real." But the sound of her sobs filled the night again, and he knew it was real. The most feared enemy in the galaxy was broken, lonely, crying in the dark. Why would the alien queen cry? Was it a trap? Was she luring someone in? Or was this something no one was meant to see? He peeked again. Her shoulders trembled as she whispered words in her own alien tongue. He could not understand, but he felt the meaning in the tone. Sadness, despair, loneliness. His blood chilled when he caught two words from his translator earpiece, alone. No future. The queen's voice cracked with pain. Her tears fell heavier, her body shaking under the weight of sorrow. The soldier felt something strange, not fear, not anger, but something he never thought possible. He felt pity. This was the enemy, the monster of war, the nightmare of every soldier. But tonight she looked less like a queen and more like a broken heart. For the first time, he saw her not as a destroyer, but as someone suffering. His mind screamed to stay hidden, but his heart pulled him closer. He wanted to know why. Why the queen of a powerful alien race cried alone in the night. He stepped on a dry branch, the crack echoing through the forest. Her head shot up, her glowing eyes searching the darkness. The soldier ducked back behind the rock, his heart hammering like a drum. For a moment he thought she would rise and strike him down, but she did not. She only lowered her head again, as if she no longer cared about life or death. That small act stunned him more than anything else. A queen who once commanded legions did not even care who watched her cry. The soldier pressed his back against the rock, sweat dripping from his forehead. He whispered to himself, "Why is she crying?" The question burned in his mind, stronger than fear. Every story he had been told painted her as cruel, merciless, heartless. But tonight he saw none of that. He saw a soul drowning in sorrow. He saw the impossible. And he knew in that moment his life was about to change forever. The night was still silent. But the silence no longer felt empty. It was heavy, filled with the sound of an alien queen's broken heart. And the human soldier, hiding in the shadows, realized one truth. He had found the enemy's greatest secret, and the reason behind her tears, whatever it was, would change everything. The soldier did not move. He stayed hidden in the shadows, his heart racing. The alien queen was still there, her body trembling, her tears shining under the pale light. He could not look away. He had seen her on the battlefield before, but never like this. On the battlefield she was fire. She was steel. She was death itself. But tonight she was fragile, like glass breaking in silence. His training told him to retreat, to call command, to report this strange discovery. But his instincts told him to stay, because what he saw was not just strange, it was impossible. The queen of the enemy, the one feared across worlds, was crying like a child. Her cries were soft, broken, carrying a pain deeper than any wound of war. The soldier felt his throat tighten, and he did not understand why. She raised her head slowly, her glowing eyes, reflecting sorrow instead of rage. Her lips moved, whispering words in her alien tongue. The translator in his ear caught fragments, broken pieces of her pain. Alone. No future. Lost. The soldier froze at those words, his blood cold. The most powerful being of her kind was speaking like someone abandoned, someone with nothing left. He thought of the stories told in the camps. They said she was merciless, that she burned colonies without regret. They said she ordered her soldiers to slaughter, to conquer, to take all. They said she was a demon in flesh, but here she was, speaking like a lost soul, not a monster. The soldier's mind could not fit these two pictures together. One was a queen of war, the other was a woman in despair. He watched as her hands clawed at the dirt, as if she wished to tear away her own sorrow. Her crown-like horns glistened in the light, symbols of power now looking like heavy chains. Her chest rose and fell with sharp breaths, her tears dropping like silent rain. The soldier swallowed hard, his weapon heavy in his hands. He thought, if I step out, she could kill me in a second. But another voice in his heart whispered, she will not. The queen tilted her head back and let out a sound. It was not a roar of command, not the scream of a warrior. It was the cry of a heart breaking. The sound shook him more than any weapon could. It was the sound of someone who had lost everything. It was the sound of someone who had no more reason to fight. The soldier's hands shook, his legs stiff. He remembered his friends who had died in battles against her kind. He remembered the burning cities, the screams, the graves. But none of those memories matched the sight in front of him. This was not the face of a conqueror. This was the face of grief. He hated her, yet he pitied her. He feared her, yet he wanted to know her pain. He leaned out slowly, just enough to see her again. Her eyes caught the moonlight, wet with tears, but sharp enough to pierce his soul. He felt her gaze. Though she did not look directly at him, it was like she cried not only for her people but for herself. The soldier's chest felt heavy, his breath shallow. He wanted to run, but his feet refused. Then something strange happened. The queen lowered, her face into her hands, her body curling inward. For a moment she looked less like a queen, less like an alien. She looked like anyone who had lost too much. She whispered again, the translator buzzing softly in his ear. This time the words were clear. No hope, no cure. End. The soldier's eyes widened. Was this the truth behind the war? Was this why she led her armies with such fire? Was this why her soldiers fought with madness in their eyes? Not because of hunger for power, but because of fear of loss. His mind spun with questions. If this was true, everything they had been told was a lie. He pressed a hand against his chest, trying to calm his heart. Every instinct said to leave, to run, to pretend he had seen nothing. But his heart told him that if he walked away tonight, he would regret it forever, because the sight of the alien queen's tears was not something the universe would believe. No one would believe that she could cry, that she could suffer. But he had seen it with his own eyes. The soldier looked at the dirt, then at the sky. He felt like he was standing at the edge of a cliff. One step could mean death, one step could mean truth, he whispered to himself. Why are you crying? The words slipped out before he could stop them. Soft, trembling, barely louder than the wind. But he knew she had heard him. The queen raised, her head slowly, her glowing eyes locking onto the darkness where he hid. For the first time, their eyes met. The soldier's breath caught in his throat, his body frozen. But instead of rage, instead of violence, she only lowered her gaze again, tears still falling. It was as if she had no strength left even to be angry, and that was the moment that stunned him the most. The alien queen, the nightmare of mankind, did not fight, did not roar, did not threaten. She only cried harder, as if his words had touched a wound she could not hide anymore. The soldier felt the ground shift under his feet, because now he knew. This night was not the beginning of a battle. It was the beginning of a truth that would shake both their worlds. The soldier's pulse thundered in his ears, louder than the silence of the night. He had spoken, and the alien queen had heard. Her glowing eyes had turned toward him. Her tears had not stopped, but she had not attacked, she had not moved to strike. That simple truth shook him more than any battle ever had. He pressed his back against the cold rock, breathing heavy. What am I doing? He whispered to himself. He was deep inside enemy land, alone, face to face with the most feared being in the galaxy. One wrong step, one wrong word, and his life would end in an instant. And yet something inside him told him to move. Not away, but closer. The soldier closed his eyes, gathering courage. Every instinct screamed to retreat, to vanish into the night and pretend this never happened. But his curiosity, his humanity, and something he could not name, pulled him forward. Slowly, carefully, he stepped out from the shadows. His boots pressed against the soil with a sound that seemed louder than thunder to his ears. The alien queen turned her head, her glowing eyes fixing on him fully now. The air between them grew heavy, sharp like a blade. Her gaze was powerful, commanding, even through her tears. The soldier gripped his rifle tight, knowing it was useless. If she wanted him dead, he would already be gone. He raised his hand slowly, not to attack but to show he meant no harm. I heard you, he said softly, his voice trembling but steady enough to carry. The queen blinked, her tears still falling, her body still tense. Her chest rose and fell with sharp breaths. But she did not roar. She did not rise. She simply stared, her face unreadable, her sorrow unhidden. The soldier took another step forward. Every movement felt like walking on the edge of a cliff. The jungle around them was silent, the stars above watching as witnesses. The soldier's voice broke the stillness again. Why are you crying? It was a foolish question, yet it was the only one his heart demanded to ask. The queen's lips parted, a low sound leaving her throat. At first it was in her alien tongue, sharp and musical. But then his translator buzzed, and one word cut through the air like a blade. Extinction, she whispered. The soldier froze, his blood running. Cold, he blinked, unable to believe what he had just heard. Extinction, the word repeated in his head again and again. The queen lowered her head, her voice soft, her tone broken. We are dying, she said, each syllable heavy with despair. Her body shook, her claws digging into the soil as if the truth itself was too heavy to hold. The soldier's grip on his rifle loosened, his mind filled with confusion. This was the enemy that had destroyed his cities, his people, his friends. And yet, she now spoke not as a conqueror, but as someone standing at the edge of an abyss, a queen who carried the weight of her species, and the burden of their end. His heart pounded, his thoughts clashed like swords. Could this be a trick, a trap, a lie? Or could it be the truth? Her voice, her tears, her trembling body. None of it felt like an act. It felt raw. It felt real. It felt impossible. The soldier swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Why tell me?" he whispered, his voice almost breaking. The queen lifted her gaze, her glowing eyes locking onto his once more. Her stare cut deep, but behind the light he saw something unexpected. He saw fear. Fear not of him, but of what was coming. The queen's voice trembled. "Because no one else will listen." Those words struck him like a blade to the chest. This was the ruler of an empire, the destroyer of worlds, and yet she spoke like someone begging to be heard. Her tears fell, faster, her strength crumbling with each word. The soldier felt his legs move on their own, one step then another. He was closer now, close enough to see the cracks in her armor, close enough to see that her tears were real, not some illusion, close enough to feel the weight of her sorrow pressing on his chest. His fear did not vanish, but something stronger took its place. A need to understand, a need to know the truth. The queen's hands trembled as she looked down at the ground. "Our colonies," she whispered. "They die." Her voice was almost broken beyond repair. No cure, no hope, only the end. Her words echoed in the night like a curse. The soldier's mind spun faster. Extinction, disease, despair. Could this be the real reason for the war? Had humanity been fighting shadows while the enemy was already falling apart from within? He stared at her, stunned, unable to speak. The queen's tears glistened under the moonlight, proof of her pain. And he knew in that moment the universe had just changed. The silence stretched long, heavy, endless. The soldier lowered his rifle slowly, letting it hang at his side. He knew he should not trust her, he knew he should not believe her. But the sight of her broken form carved into his memory like fire. He whispered again, almost to himself, "Extinction." And the queen closed, her eyes as if the word itself was too heavy to bear. The soldier stood frozen, his rifle heavy at his side. The word extinction echoed in his ears louder than the silence of the night. He had never imagined hearing such a word from the queen of the enemy, the same queen who had commanded fleets, who had broken cities, who had been painted as merciless, yet now she spoke like someone drowning, reaching for air that did not exist. The alien queen lowered her head again, her tears dripping into the dirt. Her claws carved shallow lines into the ground as her body trembled. The soldier dared a step closer, his fear clashing with curiosity. He whispered, his voice hoarse, "What do you mean?" The queen lifted her gaze, her glowing eyes filled with sorrow instead of fire. "Our people," she said, her voice heavy with pain, "are dying." The soldier blinked, unable to understand. She continued, each word sharp, broken, yet honest. "A sickness spreads through the colonies, faster than we can fight, faster than we can heal." Her body shook as she spoke, her voice cracking like thin glass. The soldier's heart pounded. He remembered the fierce battles, the endless waves of alien soldiers. He remembered how unstoppable they had seemed. And yet behind that strength there was weakness, there was fear. The queen, the symbol of terror, now spoke like a mother mourning her children. "No cure," she whispered, her claws tightening. "In the soil, no medicine, no hope, only death." The soldier swallowed hard, his throat dry. His training told him to reject her words, to see them as lies. But his eyes saw the tears, his ears heard the pain, and his heart felt the truth. The queen's voice grew softer, like a flame about to die. "We fight not to conquer," she said. "We fight to survive." Her words cut deep, deeper than any blade. The soldier staggered, the ground beneath him feeling less steady. All his life, he had been told a different story, that they wanted power, that they wanted dominion, that they wanted to wipe out humanity. But now, here in the dark, the truth felt different. He stared at her, his voice low, trembling. "You mean all of this? The war? The death? It was because of this sickness." The queen's shoulders slumped, her silence heavier than words. Finally, she nodded slowly, her tears catching the moonlight. Her answer struck him like a storm. The war that had stolen lives, the war that had burned worlds, was born not from greed but from fear. The soldier clenched his fists, anger and pity colliding inside him. He thought of his people, of the blood spilled, of the pain endured, but he also thought of her people, dying quietly in their colonies. For the first time, he saw the war as a tragedy on both sides, and that truth terrified him more than any battlefield. The Queen's voice trembled again. "You hate us," she said softly, "and you are right to hate us." Her glowing eyes lifted to his, shimmering with sorrow. "We burned, we killed, we took, but not for hunger of conquest." She paused, her voice breaking. "We did it because we had no choice." The soldier shook his head slowly, his mind refusing, his heart unsure. No choice. The words echoed in him like thunder. He wanted to scream, to accuse her of lying, but something in her tears silenced him. The way she spoke, the way her body crumbled under the weight of sorrow. It felt real. Too real. His voice was weak, almost lost. "Why tell me this?" The Queen's lips trembled, and her words came like a whisper of wind. "Because you are here," she said, "and because no one else will listen." Her eyes closed, as if each word drained what little strength she had left. The soldier felt a strange ache in his chest. He had expected hatred, violence, even death. But he had not expected this confession. He had not expected to see the Queen of War broken by grief. He looked at her, and for the first time he saw not a monster, not an enemy, but a leader drowning in despair. The jungle around them seemed to vanish. The stars above looked distant. The night was no longer about patrols or orders. It was about a secret that could shatter everything he believed. The truth that the enemy was not just an enemy, but also a victim. The Queen bowed her head, her tears falling faster. "You think us cruel," she whispered, but cruelty was the mask of fear. Her voice cracked as she added, "We are dying, soldier, and no one cares." Her words cut into him, heavy and sharp. The soldier's chest rose and fell with uneven breaths. He felt pity, he felt fury, he felt lost. He wanted to ask more. He wanted to demand answers. But before he could speak again, the Queen lifted her head. Her glowing eyes burned through. The night filled not with rage but with a plea. Her lips parted, her voice steady but broken. "You humans," she said, "may hold the cure." The soldier's eyes widened, his breath caught in his throat. The words slammed into him like a storm, the cure hidden in humanity. He staggered back, stunned, unable to process what she had just revealed. The Queen's tears glistened, her body trembling as she whispered again, "You carry what we cannot. Your blood holds what we have lost." The night grew heavier. The soldier felt the weight of a universe pressing down on him. The truth was no longer just sorrow. It was a choice that could change everything. And as he stared at the Queen, he realized that nothing about this war was what it seemed. The soldier stood frozen, his breath shallow. Her words echoed inside his skull, refusing to fade. "You humans may hold the cure," she had said, her voice trembling but clear. The alien Queen, feared across worlds, had begged through her tears, and now the soldier's heart carried a weight heavier than war itself. He staggered back a step, his boots pressing into the damp soil. His rifle felt useless in his hands. He looked at her again, the glow of her eyes softened by sorrow. She was waiting for his response. And that waiting felt more dangerous than any battlefield. His mind screamed with fury. How could she ask this? How could she ask for help after her people had burned his cities, after her armies had slaughtered his comrades, after so many graves had been filled with the dead of both sides? His chest tightened, memories crashing down on him. He saw the faces of friends lost in battle. He heard the cries of the wounded, the smoke rising from destroyed villages. He smelled the ashes of fire where homes once stood, and every memory shouted one thing: never forgive. But then his eyes fell on her again. The Queen, broken, trembling, crying not as a ruler but as a soul in despair. Her tears looked too real to be lies. Her words carried too much pain to be false. She was not just a leader of war. She was a mother of a dying race. The soldier pressed a hand to his forehead, his thoughts spinning like a storm. Help her or let her kind die. The choice seemed impossible, yet the choice was his. If he helped, he would be betraying his own people. If he refused, he would be watching another species vanish into silence. The silence around them grew heavier. Even the jungle seemed to hold its breath. The queen lowered her head, her voice soft. "You hate me, I know," she whispered, "but hate will not save us." Her words pierced him deeper than any blade. He clenched his fists, his voice shaking. "Why me?" he asked. "Why tell me this? Why not someone else?" The queen's eyes lifted, glowing faintly in the moonlight. "Because you stayed," she whispered, "when you could have left." Her tears glistened as she added, "Because you listened." The soldier's chest tightened even more. He had not planned this. He had not chosen this moment. Yet somehow he had become part of a truth larger than himself. He wanted to walk away, but his legs refused. He wanted to scream, but his throat locked. He thought of his people, of their leaders, of their armies. If he revealed this truth, would they believe him? Or would they call him a traitor? Would they let the aliens die, or would they use the cure as a weapon? The soldier's mind spun in circles. No answer clear. The queen's body shook again. Her claws pressed into the soil as if she was holding herself together. She whispered one word. "Please." The word stunned him. A queen of war begging, her voice so fragile it could break with a breath. The soldier felt his heart split in two, one half filled with anger, with memories of the fallen, the other half filled with pity, with the weight of her tears. He closed his eyes, his breath uneven. The universe seemed to hold its judgment, waiting for his choice. He opened his eyes again and stepped closer. His voice was quiet, almost trembling. "Maybe I can help you," he whispered. The queen's eyes widened, glowing brighter with shock. She had not expected such words. For a moment, the tears on her face seemed to stop. The soldier's chest ached as he spoke those words. He felt as if he had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. He knew if his people found out, they would call him a traitor. But standing here, staring into the eyes of his greatest enemy, he felt something greater than orders. He felt the weight of life itself. The queen's lips parted, but no words came. Her tears returned, but they were different now. Not only sorrow, but a spark of hope. Faint, but alive. She bowed her head slowly, as if humbled. For the first time, she looked less like a queen and more like someone saved from drowning. The soldier's hand shook as he lowered his weapon completely. He had made his choice, or at least the beginning of one. He did not know how he would help. He did not know if it was possible, but he knew one thing. He would try, and that truth stunned even him. The night around them seemed to shift. The silence was no longer empty. It carried the sound of a decision that could change everything. A human and an alien queen, enemies bound by war. Now standing at the edge of something neither could fully see, the soldier whispered again as if to himself. "If there is a way, I will find it." The queen lifted her gaze. Her glowing eyes locked on him. Her lips trembled as she whispered back, "Then maybe there is hope." The soldier stood with his rifle lowered, his heart racing like a drum in the silence. The queen's last words still hung in the air. "Then maybe there is hope." That word hope felt strange between them. It was the same word he had heard 1,000 times from his people, but now it came from his enemy, and it sounded heavier than ever before. The queen did not move. She only looked at him with glowing eyes that no longer burned with rage. They burned with something softer, fragile, almost human. The soldier swallowed hard. Knowing what he was about to do was dangerous. If anyone discovered this moment, if anyone learned what he had promised, he would be branded a traitor. But his heart refused to turn back. He whispered carefully, "If I help, no one must know." The queen nodded slowly, her crown-like horns catching the moonlight. Her voice was still soft, trembling. "No one will believe us." The soldier felt his chest tighten at the truth of her words. Humans would never believe. Their greatest enemy had begged for aid. He stepped closer, still cautious. Her size dwarfed him, her shadow wrapping around him like a cloak. Yet he did not feel the crushing weight of fear as before. Instead, he felt the weight of responsibility. He whispered, "I can bring samples, blood, medicine, data." The Queen's breath shook as she replied, "It is enough to begin." The soldier looked back at the dark forest. Somewhere beyond those trees, his people were stationed, watching, waiting. If they saw him with her, they would not ask questions. They would shoot first. And if her soldiers saw her with him, they would tear him apart. This alliance was not just forbidden, it was impossible. Yet here they stood, building it with whispered words. The Queen lowered her head slightly, her voice cracked but steady enough to carry. "Trust is not our way," she admitted, "but without it we both fall." The soldier nodded, though his stomach churned with unease. Trusting her meant risking everything he had sworn to protect, but not trusting her meant letting an entire race vanish into dust. He remembered his commander's voice, strict and unyielding. Never hesitate, never bargain, never trust the enemy. But tonight those rules felt thin. The Queen's tears had already shattered them, and the soldier found himself forging new rules in the darkness. The Queen turned slightly, gesturing with one trembling hand. "Come," she whispered. "There is a place no one knows." The soldier hesitated, his instincts flaring with alarm. But his legs followed before his mind could stop them. They walked through the glowing jungle, silent but side by side. The air felt heavy with secrets. At last they reached a cavern, hidden under roots of twisted trees. Inside, the air was cold, damp, and filled with strange humming echoes. Bioluminescent, plants lit the chamber with a ghostly glow. The Queen knelt near a cluster of stone-like pods. The soldier stepped closer, his eyes widening. Inside the pods were her people, weak, thin, their skin pale and cracked. Some stirred faintly, others lay still as statues. The soldier's throat tightened at the sight. This was no trick, no lie. This was extinction unfolding before his eyes. The Queen's voice broke. "My children, my warriors, my people." Her hand touched one of the pods gently. "They fall, one by one, and I can do nothing." Her tears returned, her body trembling as she bowed her head. The soldier clenched his fists, his chest aching. No enemy had ever shown him this side of war. This was not conquest. This was collapse, he whispered, almost against his will. "I will help." The Queen lifted her head slowly, her glowing eyes wet with disbelief. "You would risk this?" she asked, her voice sharp but fragile. The soldier nodded, though fear gnawed at his gut. "Yes," he said, "but only in secret. No one can know." The Queen studied him in silence. Finally, she bowed her head slightly. "Then we are bound," she whispered. Her words echoed in the cavern like an oath. The soldier felt the weight of that oath pressing down on him. He had just allied himself with the most dangerous being in the galaxy. He knelt by the pods, examining the sick aliens. Their breathing was shallow, their bodies trembling. He took a small device from his pack, a scanner meant for human wounds. As he scanned one of the sick, the device flickered with data. Strange. Readings filled the screen, patterns unlike anything human. The Queen leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. "Do you see it?" she asked softly. The soldier nodded, his breath shaky. "I see something, but I don't understand it yet." The Queen's voice grew sharp with urgency. "You must find a way." The soldier swallowed hard. To find a cure meant betraying orders, betraying his people, but refusing meant watching. These beings fade into nothing, and the image of their fragile forms would haunt him forever. He whispered, "I will try." The Queen closed her eyes, whispering back, "Then maybe we live." The cavern fell silent. Only the soft hum of alien life and the pounding of the soldier's heart filled the air. A forbidden alliance had been born in the shadows, one that could save a race or doom them both. And as the soldier stood beside the queen, he realized a truth. The greatest battles were not fought with weapons, they were fought with choices. The cavern was still, filled only with the faint hum of alien pods. The soldier stood among them, his scanner glowing faintly in his hand. He had never imagined such a moment standing beside the alien queen. The same queen who had burned cities now whispered like a mother watching her children fade. And he, a human soldier, had become her only chance. The scanner beeped softly, lines of strange symbols glowing across the screen. The soldier frowned, his heart racing. The data looked impossible. Alien patterns mixed with something almost familiar. He ran the scan again, his breath catching when he saw the result. It was there, hidden deep within the sickness. A broken code that mirrored something human. The queen stepped closer, her presence towering yet fragile, her glowing eyes fixed on the device in his hands. "Tell me," she whispered, her voice heavy with dread. The soldier swallowed, his throat dry. I think the cure is in us," he said, his voice trembling. The queen froze, her breath sharp. "In humans," she whispered, almost in disbelief. The soldier nodded slowly, the weight of his discovery pressing down on him. "Our blood. Our DNA," he said. "It carries what your people lost." The cavern fell silent, her tears glistening like stars in the dim light. For a long moment she said nothing. Her claws trembled as she gripped the stone wall beside her. Her entire body seemed to shake under the truth. Finally, her voice broke. "You carry our hope." The soldier's chest ached, knowing what those words meant. If humanity held the cure, then everything changed. The war was no longer about land or power. It was about survival, about life itself. But would his people share it? Or would they use it as a weapon to destroy hers? The soldier's hands trembled as he lowered the scanner. He could already hear the voices of his commanders in his mind. They are the enemy, never trust them, never help them. If he brought this truth to his leaders, they would twist it, they would weaponize it, and the queen's people would die anyway. His heart pounded with a heavy question. Was he willing to risk everything to save them, or would he let them vanish, keeping humanity safe but guilty forever? The queen stepped closer, her shadow wrapping over him. Her glowing eyes, softened, filled not with rage but with a plea, she whispered, "You saved us tonight, but the cost will be yours." Her words chilled him to the bone. "What cost?" he asked, his voice shaking. The queen tilted her head, her tears falling silently. "Your people will call you traitor. Mine will call you fool." Her voice cracked. "But history may call you savior." The soldier staggered back, the weight of her words pressing harder than gravity. He had come here as a soldier, a weapon of war. But tonight he stood as something else, a bridge between two dying worlds, a choice that could shape the future. The queen lowered her body slightly, almost like a bow. It stunned him, for a queen, to bow to anyone, let alone a human. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "You gave us life, but I fear what your kind will do with this truth." The soldier felt her words burn inside him, because he feared it too. He looked at the pods, the fragile bodies inside them. He thought of the war, the endless battles, the graves on both sides. He thought of his people, proud and strong, but also fearful and cruel. Would they ever accept this truth? Or would they bury it under hate? The cavern seemed colder now. The soldier felt the night pressing in from all sides. He whispered, almost to himself, "I don't know if I saved anyone." The queen's glowing eyes met his. "You saved hope," she whispered back. "And sometimes hope is enough." The soldier's chest ached as he turned to leave the cavern. The secret burned in his hands like fire. The cure was real, but so was the danger. Each step he took away from the queen felt heavier than the last, because he knew he was walking with a truth that could either save or doom them all. Behind him, the queen's voice carried softly. "You have given us life, human," she whispered. "But at what cost to your kind?" The words echoed in the cavern, sharp and endless. The soldier did not answer because he had no answer. He stepped out into the jungle, the moonlight cold on his face, The night no longer silent but heavy with choices. He looked at the stars, wondering if they judged him, wondering if they already knew what he did not, that the war was no longer about weapons. It was about secrets, about trust, about the cost of mercy. The soldier tightened his grip on the scanner. The data inside held the future of two races. He whispered to himself, "What have I done?" And the jungle gave him no reply. Only the memory of the Queen's glowing eyes and the truth that left him stunned.